Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and this organization, near to dear to my heart. For the many years I had an opportunity to work with them when I was at the Union Tribune. It just seems like so long. There was running water when I worked for the Union Tribune back then. We got Kitty Rast on. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
Perfectly.
Very good. She is the CEO of the Dr. Seuss Foundation. How you doing, Katie?
Doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, well, listen, how do you not have the Dr. Seuss Foundation on board over here, joined by my guest co-host, Oscar Juarez, is a senior at San Diego State in journalism, where I got my degree a long time ago. He's doing a great job as co-host, and I think Oscar has a question for you.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, what is the mission of your guys' organization?
Thanks. Great question to start with, Oscar. So Dr. Seuss Foundation inspires learning, sparks imagination, and expands opportunities for all children.
You guys have been in business for how long now?
Since 1958.
Wow.
Yeah. So we are not a new organization, but we are really in a developmental process in that we're really evolving to have even more direct public interface with the nonprofit community here in San Diego through things like open RFPs and grant cycles that help us engage with the amazing work going on in our region.
Yeah, as we mentioned offsite on it, I was honored to work very closely with the foundation when the Union Tribune, and I was out of my department, put on the Union Tribune Dr. Seuss Race for Literacy for many years, and working with Audrey, of course, and then the wonderful Claudia Prescott, who is still involved with your organization. And you guys do so many great things. Probably could talk for 1,700 hours on it, not even close to what it's doing. But have you seen a shift in what you folks are doing? Are you working more on the literacy and early childhood, maybe the science of reading? Not that you haven't been involved in that before,
Sure.
But is it sort of intensifying?
Yeah. And, I think a lot of that credit goes to Jay Hill, my predecessor, who is now a trustee on our board. I have been in this position all of 5 weeks.
You were a veteran.
Yeah. But I was a board member previously, and I've had the great pleasure of working with the organization for a few years now. But absolutely, you think of Dr. Seuss and you think of loving to learn to read. And the characters and the whimsy and the joy that those books brought into the lives of so many of us and continue to be that force for so many children. And so the focus on early literacy and all of these developmental experiences that make sure our children have these strong, healthy starts that give them the foundations they need to not only have that engagement in their earliest days, but to build a foundation that ensures they're going to be successful, lifelong learners. That is really at the heart of what we do.
I think it is interesting. If I was on my game, I would have Jacopo join you. Our next guest is absolutely an expert when it comes to the brain. He runs the Brain Observatory. And, I'm always fascinated when I talk to Jacopo. We'll be doing that at the next session on how the brain is stimulated by things like what Dr. Seuss is all about,
Right.
And so forth. And there's no question that obviously when just even hearing the words Dr. Seuss. So let me ask you this, Oscar. Did you grow up with green eggs and ham and books like that?
Yeah, I definitely did. I grew up on Cat in the Hat. That was like my first ever book. I actually still have my first copy of Cat in the Hat.
Wonderful.
Somewhere lost in my house.
Right.
But yeah, I grew up reading all of those. That was my introduction into reading. It was my introduction into honestly art in general. And
Yeah.
I fell in love with reading through Dr. Seuss. And I think I can attest for most kids my age, I was the same way.
Right.
And you hear these stories, whether you're, in your 20s like Oscar or you're in my 120s like I am, and that's that. Did you grow up with Dr. Seuss? Of course, who didn't, I guess, right?
Right? Yes, I did as well. And I haven't met a person yet who doesn't have a fond memory of their favorite Dr. Seuss book or of maybe reading it with their own children. So I loved, of course, the classics like the Cat in the Hat and Green Eggs and Ham. I loved the idea of the Lorax. I loved that character, especially. I think so many people do. And I loved some of the messaging that was really built into the book. And as a young child, you might not know exactly all of the nuances that you're able to see in some of those messages as an older person. But those fundamental teachings are there and they're embedded. There's, teachings about loving and protecting the environment around you, for example. So I always love that nowadays I get to experiencing all these stories. People bring me these stories. They send me photographs and I get to hear these wonderful tidbits about everyone's favorite character and favorite book. And to your point, Drew, the piece about the brain, and we do have an expert on that here in the studio with us at the moment, is so critical because those early years, especially up to age 5, so much brain development is happening. And so even before a child is actually able to read, the engagement with language, even being read to, being able to see the book itself and, think through this process and sing and point at things and point out colors and everything else. All of those things are helping with that developmental process, as are positive experiences in that child's life. That could be going out into nature. That could be having a loving environment within your home space that you're surrounded by. All of these things are helping to ensure that these young people are having those healthy brain development experiences. Well,
that is really well stated. And of course, Jacopo's probably the last time he's going to come on the show over here because I hijacked him over here. But Dr. Jacopo, and he is an expert in this. He's the CEO of the Brain Observatory. We're going to hear more from him in this next aspect of it. But Jacopo, you've got how old's your child?
One is 5-year-old.
Okay, one is 5, and the other
is 1-year-old.
Is 1-year-old. Okay. Do they read? Have you read Dr. Seuss books to them?
I'm Italian, so I didn't grow up with Dr. Seuss.
Right.
But my daughter was born here, so she's growing up with Dr. Seuss.
So that surprises me. That there would be, because Dr. Seuss is translated into 4 billion different languages.
Right,
is that right?
Right.
On that, but if you don't mind, Jacopo, and thank you for let me put you on the spot here. Talk about the brain and the stimulation, especially when it comes to kids your age, 5 and 1, when they're exposed to works like Dr. Seuss.
Well, one thing, in spite of my age, you can. This is a radio, so you don't see how I am. But
you will. I mean, your YouTube shorts will be highlighted by Brandon Joe. So
what really fascinates me is that the 5-year-old can read the same Dr. Seuss books over and over and over and over again, and she's excited. We go to bed. She goes to the little library that I built for her, lots of screws and shells, and she picks up the book and we read it again. And to me, I just love doing it because I can imagine what her mind is concocting as we read those pages. And she never gets bored. She never gets bored of it. And, we as adults, we read something and done.
Right.
We read it. We don't need to read it again. Instead, they just I think they build something new every time that they read a book like that.
So what does it do for the brain when you're reading it over and over again and you're stimulated and you see these amazing words that are jumping out of the page and even as important, the artistic figures?
But I'm a classical guy. I'm almost reactionary in some sense. I think books are the level of stimulation for a child's brain that it's really perfect. And in fact, they've been around for thousands of years, so it means that they still work.
Right.
In a child brain, in the development of a child's brain, there are stages that a lot of us don't know. Myself, I'm not an expert. My my studies were not on development of the brain. But at some point in development, they're ready to absorb something new. They're ready to absorb something more complex. And I think the successful, when I started the Brain Museum and I was posed with the task, how do I share neuroscience with little kids? My models were Dr. Seuss, Fred Rogers, and these are individuals who somehow were able to reach very little kids because instinctively, without studying, they kind of knew how to communicate with them. And it means that they were childish too. It means, to me, I think that they were children as well. And so the brain of a child, when he reads that book, you begin to see visual stimuli. You don't know what the words say yet. And that gives you the freedom to, sometimes I just make up stories. So that's why the books are also new. We build a new story. But imagine that they're in their mind, they are picking what they can at that stage, and they're building their own recipe. And it progresses them to the next step.
No, there's no question. We come back from break. We're going to continue the conversation with Katie Rast. She is the CEO of the Dr. Seuss Foundation. Certainly, we're calling Jacopo to throw more of his 2 cents in here. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We're in year 19. We're the longest-running community podcast in the nation, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. 60 years of doing great things in the community, whether it's literacy, whether it is art, financial help with folks that are in need, certainly food insecurity. Joined by my co-host, Oscar Juarez. He is a senior at San Diego State in journalism. We come back, we're going to ask Katie more about ensuring that children have a great foundation, for literacy. Also want to be able to talk about learning has to be fun. We all know when it's fun and you stimulate the endorphins, you just go to different types of levels. And we always save some time. I know, Oscar, I'll ask you this in the second half, what our listeners can do to support your efforts. When we come right back after this short message.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. So happy to have in Katie Rast. She is a veteran CEO. 5 weeks, you said? Yes. 5 weeks at the Dr. Seuss Foundation. Joined by my colleague, Oscar Juarez. He is a senior at San Diego State University in journalism. And I know he's got a question for Katie, but I want to give a shout out to Jacopo Anessi, who just came in. He's the CEO of the Brain Observatory, and I love how he tied in Dr. Seuss to that. Oscar?
So I wanted to ask you, what are 3 topics that you would like to talk about right now during this interview?
Oh, great. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the importance of the joy of learning. We can also think through where we see some challenges and opportunities in our community as it relates to how kids are currently ranking in some of those readiness measurements that are so important to be sure that our students are all tracking and heading on the trajectory that we all want to see them on. And let's come up with a third one real quick. Let's see.
Well, I think the fact that, what you folks do and have done, you want to reach to everybody. And it's not just young kids. It's it's the parents as well, college kids, whatever the case may be. And, you think of Dr. Seuss and you think of, San Diego. We're very fortunate to have him here. And you folks have always certainly done some great things around the country, to say the least, and around the world. But, San Diego is pretty much of a big passion for the foundation, is it not?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're so lucky to have this legacy here, and you can see it everywhere. I was just at the Geisel Library a couple of days ago, and I had the rare honor of getting to see some of the archives that are housed there, some of the hand-sketched drawings of Dr. Seuss, Ted Geisel. And, so we do have this wonderful legacy that we think about in our work and that we are able to connect to our local region. And when we think about our work and our impact, we are really focused on the San Diego region primarily. It's not the only place that we have funded in our long history, but San Diego is so important to us. And we know that, like other places throughout the country, our measurements that help us understand how our students are faring when it comes to English language arts are showing that we haven't quite rebounded when it comes to some of the challenges and declines that we saw during the pandemic years. And what's important to note about that is what we're seeing. While there are some, bright spots on the horizon, we are seeing that students who were struggling previously continue to struggle and continue to have increased challenges. And so if you were a student that was already a really high achiever, it's likely that you're probably going on to do well. But for our students who were maybe struggling a bit, we're seeing kind of a compounded challenge there. So we really want to be sure that we are able to work in the community and work with many great local nonprofits and service providers that are intervening and supporting, like you said, Drew, not only children, but their parents and the educators that serve the children to be sure that they have the support they need to really provide this holistic approach to making sure our kids have a love of reading for life.
Well, and I think what goes with it, we sort of said it right before the break, Katie, what goes with the love of reading is the love of learning.
Yep.
And I don't care if you're 117 years old or if you're 17 months old,
Right.
You should never lose that. And folks like the Dr. Seuss Foundation, especially with whether it's the books of Dr. Seuss or it's You're Ready to Learn, endowment, talk about that.
Mm-hmm. Talk about the Ready to Learn.
Yeah, please.
Absolutely. So Dr. Seuss Foundation and San Diego Foundation worked in collaboration. Dr. Seuss Foundation established a $15 million endowment at San Diego Foundation, and we are jointly launching a program called Ready to Learn. This is all focused on supporting the nonprofit service providers that are doing that amazing work, that are working with the kids, their families, and others to make sure that everyone not only has access to the resources, but the knowledge, right? How important it is, those developmental stages, some of the things that we heard about related to early brain development. It is all about reading, and there are also lots of other things that don't necessarily look like reading that help our young children have that foundation so that they'll be ready to read when that time comes.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges you folks are facing?
So, right.
Or everybody.
Everyone.
Not just you.
Right. Absolutely. So, in our region, there's a really huge opportunity to support this work. We have seen by the numbers, and we've been told by our nonprofit partners, that this is a place that could benefit from additional philanthropic investment. It's a place that currently is facing challenges related to changes in funding streams. This is something that has to be looked at holistically, right? When we think about making sure a child is ready to have a successful educational experience, we also have to make sure that child has stable housing, is safe, is well fed. All of these things are part of the whole. And when we look at that, even for a region as prosperous as ours, there are still a lot of families and a lot of children who are experiencing these challenges. And so the nonprofits that we get to work with, that we have the honor of being able to support, are doing such important work to make sure that our children are taken care of.
You know, it's something that we've been talking about for 19 years. I've been doing the show. I'm Drew Schlosberg, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the community show, 19 years and longest community podcast in the nation, brought to you by the fine folks at Mission Fed. It is never lost upon us. There are many people that live in this beautiful region that we call San Diego County. 3.4 million people, I guess, is the new census on this. And how many kids have never been to the beach, have never been to a lake, have never had a book in this area. And for those listeners who think that's impossible, it's not impossible.
Absolutely.
Talk about that.
Absolutely. So you bring up a great point, which is access to the outdoors, access to what we call playful learning. All of these things might not look like learning, especially in the eyes of a young child who might just be enjoying looking at plants or, being at the beach or playing hopscotch, all of these wonderful things that children just naturally do. But embedded in the idea of these outdoor experiences, of these playful learning experiences, is the fact that children are learning all the time. And if we surround them with opportunities to engage in a way that is meaningful and has access to all of the things that inspire creativity for a child, they are going to be more likely, again, to be ready to learn.
Well, and I think the takeaway from that is don't make an assumption that every single kid has these opportunities, because they don't.
Absolutely.
And so now you can elevate it. You talked about some of the things that are very, very challenging for groups in funding. You can talk all you want about other things, but it turns lights on, it buys stuff.
Yes.
It is real. And especially when you work with our, it depends on how you look at it, 8,000 to 15,000 nonprofits, depending what study you're looking at, right? And most of them certainly are barely on a shoestring budget. And we know this, and now you know that from your previous work at the San Diego Foundation. Every little bit goes a long way.
Yes.
And if you don't think making a $50 contribution has an impact on these nonprofits, it has a huge impact on it. What can our listeners do to continue to support the amazing work of the foundation?
Well, we're certainly always happy to have folks engage with us. You can learn more about us on our website, drseussfoundation.org. And we would especially love it if you engaged with us through some of our social media channels, including Instagram.
Yeah, that's great. So if people want to volunteer, if they want to donate, if they want to do something in between, just go right to the website.
Absolutely. And you can contact us through there.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Katie Rast, this will not be the last time you'll be on. In fact, we want to really highlight the work that you're doing consistently. So promise you'll make a return appearance.
Absolutely.
And what I'd love to do is have you bring in a couple folks that have benefited from the foundations, whether it's a student, whether it's a school, whether it's whatever the case may be. We always like to show the street cred of the groups that we have come in.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Katie Rast is the CEO of the Dr. Seuss Foundation. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. I'm listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, nation's longest running community podcast, 19 years and counting, hopefully another 19 years moving forward, brought to you by the amazing folks at Mission Fed Credit Union. And a huge shout out to Oscar Juarez. He jumped right into the frying pan. Oscar is a senior at San Diego State in journalism, did an excellent job as my co-host. What do you think? You think you might even come back and do another one of these?
No, I'm kidding. Yeah.
We would love to have you do it.
I would love to come back.
Consider it a done deal. And to our audience, we hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.